Alright everyone, Supreme Kami over here, and today we are going to be taking a look at the Hyaku Shiki over here. So in terms of Hyaku Shiki, we do have roughly about 8 parts over here, so 4 EX skill and then 4 parts of part trace over here. So let's just talk about which one me personally, I think is pretty much the best part out here. So I think the best part to really like say I gotta go ham into in terms of forming out the part tray is definitely gonna be the Hyaku Shiki beam rifle. So prior to alteration, this one is already looking at when attacking a beam, EX skill power boost by 25%. So this one is a perfect part tray for any shooting build out there specifically, because beam, in terms of beam specifically, I would have to say is a little bit more prominent than, let's say, physical. Physical, I will have to say associate a little bit more with, let's say, melee specifically. Not that I'm saying a physical is not too well known for shooting build, but I think beam is just a very kind of like an okay choice over there, but definitely not like I do wish that it will be a little bit more generalized. Maybe everything will get the EX skill boosting, but nonetheless this is still a very good portrait. And then upon alteration, we will be getting an initial charge boosting up to a 20%. So that's why I will have to say this is definitely the best part with the portrait available for any just standard or welfare out there. And then in terms of EX skill, I think the best one for my opinion, or just by using it, is definitely going to be the beam saber right here, the royal heart right here. So this one, in terms of EX skill wise over here, this one does have a good animation. This allows you to get a up to a multiple hit, I will have to say, if you are in a pretty good close proximity from your opponents and all that. So that's why I will have to say this is a very good EX skill to look at. So this one gonna be lowering your your enemy gunpla beam resistance by 29%. So obviously this one does have alteration. So in terms of the other one, I'm not saying that they're bad, but I will have to say these two are definitely something to really focus on first, while the other one you guys can definitely in terms of EX skill, I don't think there's ever like a right or wrong answer whether or not to really farm it up. I would just have to say, depending on what kind of resources you're looking like, some definitely is a little bit more prioritized than some of the other one, right? So let me quickly go to the alteration just quickly over here, because I know that I did the alteration review for this one when it initially came out, but I do want to touch bases on a few other stuff as well if I can find it, because this one came out on a pretty old time schedule if I recall, so it should be buried somewhere down here, I guess. I'm still looking for it right here. So in terms of the portrait, right, this one is actually not bad in a way, because this one you do have when you have commander active, war tag active, you are getting a shooting power boosted by 30%. So if you're someone that is lacking some good power boosting for the time being, let's say you're starting a new account, you don't really have all those like Soul Calibur parts or those like Gundam Festival parts, I think this one is still considered a pretty good candidate, because this one does have Commander. So at the end of the day, Commander is still by far a very good portrait to be running alongside Ace of Sister, for example. Unfortunately, this one is going to be paired up with high mobility, so in terms of war tech compatibility, yeah, it is going to be a little bit wonky for a save, but nonetheless, this is still a very good portrait that I feel like it's pretty much slept on. Definitely still something to be considered about. Alright, moving on to the leg. This one I would say just completely a hot skip. This one is just reducing the spread of the bazooka type weaponry. Specifically going to be your I would have to say this one should be for EX skill based, just anything that's like a burst through, like any shotgun rounds, right? Being able to kind of like lower the or just kind of condense where the shot is being at, that could be good. But nonetheless, this portrait is just not really that good. So the leg, for example, you can at least form up one copy of it, so you have it for the collection purposes. But in terms of like actually forming up to portrait level 10, probably not, right? This one is kind of weird, right? So with Ace exclusive enemy shooting power boost by 25%. So this one is a very weird wording. So this one is like with Ace exclusive enemy. So is it talking about when your enemy has Ace exclusive active war tag active? So even originally when it first came out, that was like really something that puzzled me. Like, is it talking about the enemy? So this one is pretty good at base rating. You don't really need the alteration, because with the alteration you're only getting the consumption, like you prevent your vernier from consumpting when sidestepping or just stepping in general, so that could be good. But other than that, secondary portrait is kind of like a hit or miss anyway. It's definitely going to be the first portrait that we're looking at, but in terms of the first portrait, it looks a little bit more confused to me in a way. So that is definitely something to be tested to kind of confirm whether or not that is actually to yourself, or do you need your opponent to be running Ace exclusive, because that is definitely very restrictive in a way, because how often do you what is the percentage, right, in terms of running into actually Ace exclusive enemy. So that is definitely something to be considered about. And then the other one, like I said again, the beam rifle, definitely the best part from the set. Initial charge boosting by 20% when you are using mid shooter job right there. These are definitely, you can call it like a very restrictive, a little bit too specific in what you need to be doing. But like I said again, this is a free to play part, so there is definitely no complaining in terms of like what kind of restriction we're looking at. That is, I would have to say this is still one of the better parts to be looking at to this day, in terms of what kind of build you guys looking at. So that this one specifically, that is definitely the best part to be looking at. And then in terms of some of the other EX skill, they're not really changing too much in terms of their power and piercing wise over here. I will have to say this one, the bazooka one, the double wave, the dual wave. This one is definitely getting the benefit after the alteration. This one bumping up to a B minus power, or yeah, B minus power from a D. So this one, if you guys are planning to use a dual wave over here, so this is definitely something to alterate. And then last but not least, looking back at the beam rifle, the Royal Heart. So this one does not really change anything, but in terms of the damage wise, it should be a little bit harder in terms of what kind of damage we're looking at. Kind of keep that in mind, 3 seconds for the first time usage, so you don't really need any initial charge boosting in enemies away. I will have to say maybe the other one. Let me take a look. No, man, all of them are actually at 3 seconds, is it? Oh, this one is a 8 seconds. So these two are pretty much going to be good on the spot. Hopping to the match, they should be able to, they should be ready by then. Like once you hop into the match, maybe wait a tad of a second, for example, they should be ready, like they should be good to go. So the only concerning factor is definitely going to be the army XQ, having to wait just slightly whatsoever to have it all up and running. So but without any further ado, I will be doing an EXQ showcase for them, obviously in a EXQ cooldown reduction type build. So I will actually, what kind of okay, so this one I will actually be using it on the melee EXQ cooldown build, because we do have 2 melee EXQ. And then in terms of the damage for the dual wave over here, obviously I'll be doing one right now at base level 1, and then I'll be doing it a testing from, I'm gonna see if I can actually get this one to EXQ level 10 for both of them when I do like the solo testing for them. But as for the Royal Heart, I will probably not be doing that because I already do have an EXQ level 10. So you guys can just kind of get a gist of like what kind of damage we will be looking at in terms of a solo match after this testing over here. So the only EXQ that I'm not going to be using is definitely going to be Head Vulcan, because they suck, so I'm not going to be trying that out. So this is going to be the test that we'll be doing, 3 of these EXQ on this build specifically. Yep, this is going to be the melee build that we were running that has contains a 100% cooldown right there. 20 will be 40 by then, 60, and then 80, and then 100. So that is going to be the build that we'll be looking at, and then we'll be right back as I do hop into a match. Alright, so hopping in for a quick multi-mission matchup here. So we're gonna quick backdash a little bit and just kind of show off these EXQ individually like this over here. So beam saber combo looks pretty boring, and then what about the dual wave over here? So pretty standard from what we have expect, you know. This one is definitely really good. You guys saw that I just took out multiple enemies with like a single strike. So okay, so that is definitely great information that I want to know. So it looks like that this EXQ is able to get knocked back as well, so kind of unfortunate. So this one does have a pretty good range, but in terms of the starting up, it could be a little bit slow. So that winding up is slow, but once it does pick up speed, you guys can definitely see that we are going to be able to slice through multiple enemy per time. So you know, obviously when they are in close proximity. And then in terms of the beam saber combo, I don't know. You guys can definitely let me know how do you guys feel about this one over here. Do you guys think it's kind of good or whatnot? So you guys can definitely let me know. In terms of the dual wave over here, it's a pretty standard, like from any of these bazookas have EXQ, I would have to say. So definitely not anything that's of a surprise. So in terms of the damage, don't be surprised it's a little bit low in my setup, because this is a melee cooldown reduction type build. So obviously output is not going to be as great, but we are still able to kind of take out the enemy, right? So kind of good. All right, so looks like it would have splash damage if the enemy is kind of close enough, so that's cool. That was definitely something kind of want to know as well, so not bad. All right, but I will have to say I definitely like the World Heart a lot, just because you are able to take out multiple enemies, which is kind of ideal. If you talk about having like a dozens of enemy in front of you, so that is definitely gonna be great. Okay, so this one is just kind of whatever, just not really requiring too much. I would have to say so. Kind of unfortunate and got knocked back right there. Was that one swipe? Yeah, look at that. That's why if you guys are planning to max out any EX skill, I would have to say the Beam Saber Royal Heart is definitely something you guys want to consider first. And then up next, I will be doing some, individually testing for all those 3 EX skill in a friend battle. In terms of Royal Heart, I think I'm just gonna do like a solo video just for that in my melee setup. And then for the other two, I'll be doing it respectively to a shooting build and then a melee build, prior to alteration and then after alteration to see what kind of damage differences we can be expecting. And I think that is pretty much going to be it. Alright guys, with that being said, that is going to be the EX skill showcase for the Hyaku Shikis over here. So with the alteration for both the arm and then the bazooka, man, they were doing a lot of damage in the friend battle. You guys can definitely see that prior to alteration, they were not even able to finish off the enemy, but after alteration, they were performing pretty good. So you guys can definitely let me know which one of the EX skill are you guys gonna be prioritizing. And then in terms of those portrait parts like the beam rifle and then the torso, do let me know if you guys are planning to kind of get them up and running to portrait level 10 as well. So with that being said, that is going to be pretty much it, and then I'll catch you guys all on the next one.